Let's see what we got. Alright. That's cool. And as you can see, we're going to be doing these daily quest grinds. But first, let's get to the deck tech. Let's get to the battle group tech. Today, we're going to be going over Nefari's Torment. Now, this isn't one of the starter decks. It isn't one of the decks you can purchase on the store or anything like that. It's a deck I just created kind of to do this quest here. I do that from time to time. I just create decks specifically for quest or missions. It's really the easiest way to do it. If I can find this deck, here we go. Now this deck is kind of similar to the original demon deck that I tweaked a lot to be more fire focused. But this deck is obviously going to be different. It's going to be focused more on demons. Now this is a cool deck. I like this deck a lot. I keep saying deck. I like this battle group a lot. I know what I mean. It focuses on damaging yourself and dealing heavy amounts of damage to your opponent. So it's a real different type of deck other than what I've displayed so far. And yeah, let's get into it. This is one of, if you want to ask me, it's probably not my most powerful deck. It has a lot of synergies, decent amount of spells, and it does some unexpected things, especially in PvP. But yeah, this is mainly to complete this quest. You see we got the Rogue, Demonic Day again, and Training Day. And as always, we don't do the PvP quest on camera. We save all of our losses in PvP for me. for me to see and go over. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with the filter. Just in case we want to, you know, switch out any of these cards at any time. Oh, I actually filtered that wrong. Under depths. Let's do this. Alright, we back. Let's see if we want to take anybody up, but let's start it off. First, we got the Angel of Pain, as you know. We always run with her. We go on escalation on her, not Rend. Even though Rend 5 is pretty damn powerful. But she has Absorb, Arrow Eater. That's perfect. She has escalation. But yeah, this is one of the first times we're going to be really using bleed to its maximum effect. I'm going to show you how that gets down during the battle. This creature also has bleed. Now, once again, this deck suffers from lack of ranged creatures. This is one of our very few ranged creatures, but it has ammunition. Basically, it only has 4 shots. Then it becomes just basically a melee champion with no defense. So yeah, you gotta watch out for that. But we're gonna abuse the bleed as much as possible on this guy with the support ability. And this Fearsome Hunter is pretty cool, especially if you're getting the last attack off. Then we have one of our newest additions, Deep Elf Fanatic. We actually got this during one of the other daily quests, so I thought it was kind of fitting to throw this in there and start leveling this card up. For Surge Demon, it's looking like the most powerful ability. It has Essence Capture, which is great. And it also has Torment. Now, this unit receives a damage boost when injured. If at 80% max health, it gets +1, then, you know, +2, then +3, then +4, once it gets down to 20% damage. Now, this deck is based on damaging yourself. And, you know, we always going to be damaged by the enemy. So, there's a lot of ways to trigger Torment on our own. And, you know, if it takes a beating by being on the front line, it's going to help us and it's going to become way more powerful. So it's going to get its +4 damage boost one way or another. Then it also has Maniac and Pounce. So basically, even though I can just pounce every few turns directly at somebody, this ability is always going to move me 2 spaces towards the closest enemy champion and make a free attack if possible. So that's why it's good to have this guy tormented and just getting a free attack every turn before it even starts to do anything. So that's powerful. With Essence Capture, is going to be getting a lot of, you know, Nora for us. Then we got this guy. It has Call of the Hunter. It's probably the main reason why I'm using this guy, but hit and run is also good. It can get a hit off and then, you know, run into a font. It has 12 base attack, 46 health. It's not that bad. But Call of the Hunter, this ability is going to come in a lot in handy in this particular battle group. Basically, for 2 turns, an ally gets Gets to get relocated right next to this guy, so he can call in backup basically. Then we have this chick here. She's also tormented with 11 base, and she's one of our only ranged characters that stays ranged. And you know, she can do melee too if you know somebody gets too close to her. That's why she's pretty good. Then she also has drain. She can kind of heal herself by damaging other champions, which is great because it triggers other people's torment and it keeps her alive a little bit longer. So I like that. Hex, it's not really going to come into play a whole lot. Then of course we have the demon Max here. And interesting enough, we're going to be using the Minotaur Portal Walker in his deck with all of his, you know, maneuverability. And Portal Walker, because you know we do have relocate ally in his deck, and we can make him relocate himself and have other people relocate him, so we can trigger this Portal Walker a lot with this deck. And I did go with immunity magic because it's great to have 100% immunity in this game, and we don't need to run teleport or bloodseeker in this deck battle group particularly because we do have a lot more other creatures with the whole maneuverability. Then we're going to get into this guy, Nefari Informant. He's really here for the Call of the Hunter ability too. He has a little bit of detection in Shadow Spawn, so that can come into play at any given time. And Declare Vengeance isn't a bad skill if you wanted to look at that. It's pretty cool. Then of course we have the Nefari Messengers, which is basically a staple in all of my demon decks so far. I can't see a reason not to run this creature, but Drive has a secondary effect, which is also great. When I usually just use Drive for the AP effect, and the loss of HP is usually a minor downside, but in this deck particularly it becomes upside with the torment triggers and things of that nature. It becomes real good because you can add damage, speed, AP, and take away health, which is more damage. That's going to be real good on all of our torment guys. And you know, initiatives, she can come right into play and get busy. She's self-healing with this regeneration and life siphon. She's pretty much going to stay alive the entire game. And she also have another interesting ability. I don't really have to get into that one. I went over her completely. We got this guy, Pincushion. He's dope. Arrow Eater, no damage, shield, physical, and he also has damage aura. Now, auras are usually, you know, high upside, high downside when you have to leave your creatures surrounded by themselves because you don't want to damage your own creatures unless you have a lot of range guys. But we don't have a lot of range guys, but this damage aura is going to also help trigger our torment basically and damage the enemy while we at it. And it only does 4 damage instead of 6. It doesn't have a full power damage aura, so that 4 damage is a little bit more manageable. Then we have this guy, the Pit Dragon, one of our good creatures. We have Blood Frenzy. Look at that. Like, basically, when he gets more than half of his HP gone, he gets less defense. He basically gets no defense and gets +4 damage. And gains multi attack. And look at his base. 18 base damage, 61 base HP. That's insane. Plus he has magical resistance. This guy is a beast. Later, for the one downside of having basically 1 minus defense when he goes on his Blood Frenzy, I'm going to make sure he gets to his Blood Frenzy the majority of the time. Because having 30 HP is not nothing to snuff at. And 30 HP with all of this excess damage, yeah, we don't really need a defense at that point. He's going to be hitting for 24 with a magical resistance. We don't really need a defense at that point, bottom line. So we run 2 Pit Dragons. We usually run 2 Rip Demons, but I kind of made room for more ranged creatures like this one with the bleed. Since our Pit Demons don't really have the bleed activated yet, so we're going to just go with the Surge Enemy, you know, the regular setup, Violent, Damage, Shield, Max, things of that nature. That comes into play. Then we run in a Xiao Monstrosity. Now this Constriction ability, just read it. It's kind of OP if you think about it. I love this. He does also have 1 rank of toughness, which basically effectively gives him, you know, 3 defense. But it's a little bit better than defense because he just takes 1 less damage. Even if the attack ignores defense, it doesn't ignore his toughness. Then he has Crushing Charge. He can close the gap. He doesn't hit really hard. He has a lot of utility with this Constrict ability. And Call of the Hunter, obviously, he can, you know, call for backup. He has the 2 base defense. He's great. I like this guy. He's a good support frontline guy. What do you want? Then we obviously running this demon, the Eye Guard. He's OP. I've went over him a few times. Then we all running a War Augs. He having Rage. You know, when he gets attacked, he gets +3 damage. He has the Berserk attack. Makes a close combat attack at +2 damage. Gets negative defense for 2 turns, but it doesn't really matter. Then he has max physical resistance. That's excellent because he's going to be a frontline guy. Then he has unstoppable, meaning you can't really move him around too much. You can't really be ensnared, paralyzed, rooted, all of those weak debuffs. He can't really do that type of stuff to him. So he stays in the front line, and he's hitting for 10 base, 50 HP. He's solid. With that physical resistance, he's real solid, especially with the Berserk attack and the Enrage combined. He can start doing some heavy damage. You know what I mean? He's going to be having +5 normally. He's going to be doing some damage. Then we also, into our spells now, or our abilities, we run and banish, you know, get guys away from us as soon as possible and kind of take the advantage in the Nora font situations, or possibly banish a ranged creature that's being annoying for a little while. Make them redeploy them and get back into position. It's worth it. Then we have Maddening Echoes. This is when, you know, damaging our own champions might come into effect. We don't usually have to, but to get max damage, you usually have to have 5 champions within a small area of effect of just 2x2. So in order to make this trigger off, I might just sacrifice a weaker champion, run him into a bunch of guys, might get an attack off, and, you know, he might have a very low amount of HP. And he'll add 1 more body to this whole body count of the Maddening Echoes, and sometimes he'll be the 5th body, the 4th body, but it just allows me to maximize on damage. And even though he's going to kill himself, he most likely can take out everything else with him by adding that extra 5 damage, and I can scoop up the Nora Globes after that. So it's kind of worth it. It's almost like I'm sacrificing a guy. I can do this with more than 1 champion. Let's say I have 2 champions that's about to go down anyway, and there's not much I can do about it. I can just run them both into a group of another 3 champions and guarantee the 5 and take 23 damage from everybody. So it's a lot of good ways to make this work in your favor. But I'm only running 1 copy. Then I do have Mind Slicing Boomerang. Now this is an interesting attack. I can run 2 copies of this, but, you know, I don't want too many spells or abilities that damage our guys because we have enough abilities on our creatures. But this is interesting. You can read that. It does 7 psychic damage all the way down to 1. And, you know, the closest champion to your last damage champion takes all the damage that was received. So this can add up something crazy around like 20 something damage easy. 17. It's a lot of damage. It's like probably 17 damage total, but that's a lot of damage. And you're going to be damaging our guys, which works in our favor with this type of battle group. Then I am running Mindstorm. This is a great ability for the demons. Anytime, you know, the 10 psychic damage. There's not a lot of psychic resistance out there. And the most important thing is it loses all of its AP and becomes Shock 3. Shock 3 is not really that crazy. It's just an extra 5 damage. But losing all of the AP is huge, especially for the double attackers, the people with great abilities. That secondary effect is huge. I'm also running Shattered Nerves. For 6 turns, target champion loses 2 HP for each AP that it spends. So for 6 turns, basically, with their strongest a creature, I'm going to make it either attack and attack itself at the same time for all the AP it's using. And all the speed creatures that gain 7 or more HP a turn, I'm going to put this on them. So use up all that AP and you're going to end up taking damage. You know, some guys can use up to upwards of 10 HP per turn. Times 2, that's 20 damage, man. You're going to end up killing yourself before this dissipates. It's going to get a kill. And that's interesting because it can take out a very, very powerful minion, like 50 health or better, just in a few turns. Then we have this Split's Personality. This also can catch somebody off guard. For 2 turns, whenever target champion makes a basic attack, the damage is presented and the damage goes directly to him. So you put this on a heavy hitting champion that they think they're going to be able to 2-shot you or double tap you for a whole bunch of damage, and then no, it just goes directly back to them, and then you can just clean them up on the rebound on your turn. That's great. Then we also have this here. All champions within 6 spaces that do not share race with target champion take 13 psychic damage. Like I said, there's not a lot of psychic resistance that I've ran into so far. So that 13 damage is very high. That's a very high base damage for area of effect spell. Think about that. And it's a 6 spaces area of effect spell. You only really get 4x4s and things like that. You can basically put this on, and most of our cards, besides 2 cards, are all demons. So with the exception of those 2 cards, which is, I can move out the way fairly easily, like this angel with a lot of mobility, and the other 1 card I have that's not a demon, this minotaur with the portal and things like that, I can just warp him to somewhere else, get him out of the way so he doesn't take the 13 damage. But I can just basically globally, almost globally, do 13 damage in a very wide area. So I love this spell. That's why I'm running 2 of these, superiority, because we are running almost a full demon deck. We can go full demon, but I think this portal walker ability is too powerful. Then we're going to get to the Grief Bearer's Fountain. It mainly just adds +1 damage to all of our demons. And again, it loses 5 HP, but it gets a blood globe. So this can help out in a lot of different ways. They can just collect the blood globe themselves. The blood globe can end up damaging an enemy if they try to move in range to, attack you. Or they can leave the blood globe alone and have another demon pick it up that's suffering on health. So it basically sacrifices 5 HP from all of our demons, but it leaves an extra 3 HP, and it can be distributed how I want, as long as I can protect them or possibly just get to them first. So that's amazing. And I can put this at the fountain. It doesn't have any area of effect or anything. It just gives +1 damage all around the board. So that is amazing. I love that. Then we run in the mark. Then we also run in the Nightblade. This can come in handy. This is our only, our secondary form of healing, because we are using the blood vials for healing. Then we have the Siphon Aura. You can read what that does. And they also have Strike. This allows, the target to ignore defense. That's going to come in handy a lot. There's a lot of heavy defensive creatures out there. Then, that's the deck. And also, we can move our own creatures in range of this Siphon Aura, take damage from them, and also trigger this Torment. So that's why I call this Nefari's Torment. We want to get these Torment triggers off. We don't mind losing damage or damaging our own guys. We have some high health creatures or champions, and we just going to see how this works out. Thanks for tuning in to this Battle Group Tech. It's your boy DB4, and I'm out, man.